So I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that, well, actually, you know what? I've actually been thinking about a lot. Hello, everybody. Anthony here. Welcome back to another interesting episode of the Single Parents Podcast. This is the podcast for anybody whose life may have turned out a little less than traditional. I'm glad to be back with you. It's been a few weeks. I know. I acknowledge that. I own that. I accept that. Because the reality of the show, say it many times, but I'm going to say it one more time, I guess, at least one more time. And that's the fact that I'm just a real life single dad doing my thing with my kids week in and week out and just living through the realities of life. And sometimes the realities of life, even though they may not necessarily be extremely chaotic or totally devastating or anything like that. That's not my case, right? At least for right now. Sometimes the realities of life still require a little pause and reflection and doing some self-assessment work just to kind of see where I'm at and how I'm processing certain things and navigating through certain things and how I just all the things, especially since we as a country, United States of America, just went through something pretty interesting, I guess I could say, as a nation recently. The whole election thing and just some big changes coming. So it's just been, and then there's some other aspects of my life that I just needed to pause and kind of ponder for a moment or two. So I do apologize that I haven't been with you all for a couple of weeks. We just took an impromptu hiatus, I guess. That wasn't planned. It's just how life ended up needing to be. So I guess this is gonna kind of act as like the default season finale of the show. Wasn't what I had originally planned when I sat and kind of mapped out this season back at the beginning of August, but we're here. This is it. That's fine. This is real life. We're just going with the punches sometimes, and that's okay. But I'm truly happy to be with you all once again. If you're new or just investigating the podcast for the first time, hello, good to see you. Glad you're here. A few things I would just like to ask you to do before we kind of dive in a little bit, whether you're new or a returning guest of the show, not just a guest, but a member of the family, a member of the hot SPs that make up the Single Parents Podcast. A few reminders just to throw out there. Take this and do with it whatever you'd like. The first thing I would just ask you to do is just maybe consider subscribing to the podcast. Ring the bell, turn on automatic downloads on your favorite podcast hosting platform or YouTube, all the things. So that way, when we kick back up the show in January, we'll talk more about that later in the show, but you'll just know, oh, the new season just dropped. 2025 season just dropped. I know I'm here. I'm ready to go. Or you can just go back and listen to past episodes that you might have missed. We did a lot of cool stuff this year that I'm super proud of. I did the eating and dining alone episode. I did the episode with Tawny when we went through iconic single parents throughout history. I did the Taylor Swift party episode. I did the travel episode. We did some pretty cool stuff. We got deep. We had fun. We did a lot. So just subscribe. That way, whenever you have some free time, you can go back and kind of work your way through our past library. And I think you'll enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it. No. I know you'll enjoy it, that's for sure. The next thing that I would ask you to do is maybe consider sharing the podcast, right? We're in the holiday season. It's the season of giving gifts and blessing others with some cool stuff. And what better way to bless a friend, a family member, or a neighbor than with a sweet, sweet podcast? That being the show. So go ahead and share the podcast with your friends and family this holiday season, and I'm sure they will think it's literally the best gift that they a paid vacation, a new car, a flat screen TV, socks. No, none of that stuff's going to compare to you giving them the link to this podcast. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. And then the last thing I might just ask is if you feel so inclined to do so, only do this if you think the show is worthy and legit enough for you to take this action. But if so, please consider rating the show 5 stars, highest rating possible on your favorite podcast hosting platform. That way, over this little break we're going to have over the next few weeks, the algorithms out there will still push the show to more people, let them know this is a good thing. and we'll just be able to jump into 2025 with hopefully some new hot SPs joining us for that journey. All right. So, like I had kind of teased a little bit in the beginning of this, I took the last few weeks just to kind of process a lot. And there's like two big areas of life that I just needed to pause and to kind of mentally work through. I'll get into one now, and then I'll talk about another aspect of it, or the other area rather, at the end of the show. But yeah, I think it was just much needed because I think sometimes for myself, being a single parent, especially, I can just be so caught up in taking in information, taking in the reality, hearing what I need to do or what's going to be the case moving forward, and not fully giving myself enough time to kind of work through my emotions and my thoughts about those situations, but just having to say, well, okay, I guess this is what we need to do. So here's the plan, and let's go 100 miles per hour. And we just got to go. We just got to survive. We got to do all the things. Because that's just practically that has to be the reality sometimes as an SP, right? Because if you're the only adult in the house, you don't really have the other partner there to maybe give you some space, to give you a break, to give you opportunities to step aside, to kind of collect your thoughts. It's all on you. So you got to just get the information. You just got to move forward and figure it out, right? But also, like, realized I was thinking about this morning. Like, I think sometimes for us as P's, single parents, um, it can maybe take us a little bit more time than maybe people in relationships with other adults in a home to process and kind of navigate feelings about certain things. Because if it is just us and our kids, especially if we have like younger kids like me, then you don't necessarily have that consistent, even spontaneous time to kind of talk through things with another adult sometimes. Like, yes, for me, the things I'm going to kind of get into, I've had some great friends and some great family who we talk through some of these things, and they help me process my thoughts and kind of share my emotions and just leave it all out there. And I'm very, very thankful for them. And I hope that you have people in your life that allow you to do that as well. But when it comes to just being in my home, getting a thought, getting a feeling at a random time, I don't have a spouse there or a partner there. Just be like, babe, you know what? One more thing. I got one more thing to say. And you just kind of like let it, you know what I mean? Like sometimes we have to take a little extra time working through some of those things, because maybe we do, when it comes to having another conversation with an adult, have to schedule those times or have to set aside specific time, not so spontaneous like, to make sure we have those conversations. And so that's just kind of been my reality. And so as I've kind of been thinking about certain things, I was able to, I think, in a healthy way, process them over the last couple of weeks, and prepare myself to just talk about a couple of aspects of what I've been thinking through here on the show. So I apologize. I know the season finale of the show is going to be a little bit more heady, a little bit more conversational about some deeper things I've been thinking about, but you know what? Like I said, it's just the reality. And at the end of the day, our whole theme for the season was just why not, right? And we kind of set this up as like we're in the why not era of the show, being that if there's something you need to do, why not? Go for it. If there's something you need to say, why not? Go say it. If there's something you want to try, why not? Let's step into some of these things and do the things we want to do. Even as single parents, that shouldn't stop us for saying why not and going for it. And in a way, that's kind of what I've been able to stop and to do in some practical ways that I'll share maybe towards the end of this podcast. But even personally, as myself, I was able to say, well, there's some big things happening socially and politically and culturally around me that I need to kind of focus on for a minute. And then internally, there's some things I just want to see how I feel about certain situations. So why not? Why not take a little breather and just do the work, do the self-care processes to kind of see where I'm at. So all that yapping and build up to get to the first big thing I've kind of been thinking through and working through, and that itself is, as I kind of alluded to already, the fact that we just had an election as a country, and some big thoughts and big feelings and big opinions are kind of circling regarding the results of that election and what's coming the next 4 years in different areas of life, different factors of life, different for how this will affect different people groups and stuff like that. And so for me, ultimately, the whole point of this wasn't to sit and necessarily get political, right? Because this isn't a political podcast. This is a relational, fun, social parenting podcast. I don't really know what category I'd consider the show, but I'm definitely not a political podcast. So this isn't necessarily me breaking down the economics, the Democratic side, the Republican side, the red versus the blue. This isn't about that. This is about me, myself, seeing the results of the election and kind of processing what that specifically means for me and my kids moving forward, especially over the next 4 years. And what do I mean by that? So for me, for my context, I live in like a small rural cowboy ranching gold mine town with my kids. It's not like a one gas station small little desolate town like that. It's about 20, 30,000 people here in the area. So it's all right. It's a good little town. It's a good sized city. But the vast majority of the people in my community voted red. And I think the numbers came out as like 4 to 5 when it came to the voting demographic of the voters in my town voted red 4 to 5. So that's just kind of the political breakdown of my town, right? So there's that. And then also when it comes to the diversity aspect of my community, it's predominantly white. We have some natives, we have some Hispanics, we have some African, and when I mean like African, not like some, yeah, African Americans by the definition that I'm African American, but we actually have some like legit Africans here because our town is very transient with our economy and our job market. Because, as I mentioned, we are a gold mining town, so we'll get workers in from Canada or Africa or all around the world coming here to work for a few months, and then they'll go off to their next project and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the breakdown. But for the most part, it's a very predominantly white community. So that's another factor of it. And I've lived in this community itself, called it home really, for the last, 12, 13 years. And I've done a lot of things in the community to really immerse myself um, in the community itself, because I truly do love and care about the community. I do have a passion for some big things that the community is about. There's really great people here, obviously. Like, I'm really glad over the last 13 years to call this community my home. Long story short, I came here for work about 12, 13 years ago, got married, had some kids, and now my kids' family lives here, their mom lives here. So even though I don't work at the career that I initially moved here to start, I'm here because of my kids, is for essentially because at least until they're adults and get to choose what they want to go off and do, I'm going to be here because this is where their mom has to live and all that other sort of stuff. So I'm here. I'm in it. And like I said, I truly do love and care about this community. But an interesting part of being a part of this community the last 13 years was in the early days of it. I, being an African American coming into a predominantly white community, just really did a lot of things to ensure that I myself was accepted and loved and really a part of this community and known around the community in a lot of ways. Like, I did a lot of work that put me, like, in, I guess, in a lot of ways in the public eye of the community through different organizations I've worked with, through working with like our local chamber of commerce, so being involved in a lot of businesses that are in the community, I did like a human interest blog that I managed for a few years about people in this community. Like Anthony was pretty well known in this community for a lot of different ways. And I think part of that is that just my personality. I love being out there and I love people and I love hanging out with people and mingling with people and just being in those scenes in general. So that really is just a part of who I am and stuff I love to do. But a part of it is just like I wanted to really feel like I could adopt this town for my own, even though it's not a town I grew up in, even though I just kind of moved here when I was in my mid 20s. I just wanted to ultimately be like truly accepted by the people in this town. And so I did a lot of work just to um, hopefully make that happen. And I believe that I had made it happen in a lot of different ways, to the point where one of my family members, my brother, I would always invite him over to my community to hang out, to visit, to just check it out. And he was always like, he did come over like once, I think, a while ago, but he was always hesitant because he kind of knows the demographic of my town and he gets a little nervous being like, hey, like, I don't know, like I'm gonna pull up blasting certain music and dressing a certain way and talking a certain way. Like, I don't know if your neighbors are gonna be so gung ho about accepting somebody like me because already in the town that he lives in, he's struggled with just some horrible circumstances regarding the police and profiling and stuff like that. And so him looking at my town, he was just like, I don't know about that. But I was always be like, no, 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 it's fine. Like, look at me. I've been here all this time, and then people love me, and we're cool, and we're doing this, and we're doing that. Like, you'll be fine. And his ultimate point was just like, well, yeah, but like, look at, like, he's like, no offense, Anthony, but like, look at you. Like, you drive a minivan, and you're the dad, and you're the guy who gets up in front of the room and gives funny speeches, and you're just basically what he was saying is like they accept you. A lot of people in that town will accept you because like the people who normally wouldn't accept people who look like me, I'm the exception, as some people would say, some scumbag people would say, like one of the good ones, right? And so his point was like, you make them feel like safe around our demographic, but I don't know if I would come in and do that because I'm not gonna like change myself to be accepted by anybody. He's like not saying that you changed yourself to be accepted because you're just showing up being who you are, and by being who you are, that just kind of naturally allows you to fit in around certain groups. But he was saying for himself, I don't know. But I was always just like, no, 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 I don't see that. I don't see that. Up until unfortunately, 2020, when it was obviously part of Trump's first term as president, and during 2020, obviously a lot, I don't have to tell you, a lot happened with the pandemic and all the other stuff. There was just a lot that year. Like literally it seems like a dream, like a movie. Like the history books about that year is going to be insane and the kids in the future are not going to believe that it was a real thing, but it was. And part of the craziness that was 2020 involved like a lot of like racial tension stuff because of the George Floyd situation and the protest and all the other stuff that kind of went down that year. And that was the first year where I saw some of the people who I had really spent years up until that point really trying to gain acceptance and love from, I guess I can just say, who responded to some of the racial happenings around our country in some pretty shockingly, I'll just say it, gross and disgusting ways. Like some of these people who I've hung out with in the past, sat down with, brought my kids around, had dinner with, were the ones saying some pretty disgusting things, racist things about not even just people who look like me, but other races out there as well. And it blew my mind. And again, this is this story, in case I do have people from my town listening to this. This wasn't everybody. This wasn't every single person I've met since I moved here automatically showed their gross, disgusting racist colors. Obviously, that's not the case. But I was surprised because there were some people who I thought I they were a certain way, and then they kind of again show their true colors, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that the fact that you feel so comfortable putting that on Facebook or whatever, or just saying it around me in general, pretty messed up. Yeah, you're a scumbag. Like, did not know that up until this point, but yeah, you are a scumbag. And so during that year, I finally realized what my brother was saying the whole time is just the fact that, you know what? Like, again, maybe around you, Anthony, they're gonna be like, oh well, no, not you, Anthony. You're cool. But and then have all these scumbag things to say and this gross mentality. Like, I just realized that again, not about all my neighbors, but about some of my neighbors that I was surprised to have that realization about. And it was a very hard year because of that, because I began for the first time since I moved here uh, questioning certain relationships, or even just thinking twice about walking down the street past certain houses of people who I've known who began saying certain things. And it was very eye-opening. And so that was a tough year because of that. So leading up to what I've been thinking about now and the recent results of this election, I realized that those scumbag people, again, this isn't a political thing, not Democrat, Republican, but those scumbag people who feel almost empowered, emboldened to say these gross, racist, sexist, harmful things about people who don't look like them. They just feel like the sense of power and this sense of like, oh, I can say and do whatever I want. The filters off because of who's president, and I'm just gonna just say it like it is, and all these sort of things. And it's gross, and I hated it the first time, and it just made me really scared and anxious and sick thinking about the fact that those scumbags are gonna come out of the woodwork again with their same loud, disgusting mouths, given the recent result of this election. And I think the big thing I had to process about this time around was the fact that before, back around the 2020 time when Trump was first elected and those scumbags came out, my daughters were pretty young. They were not babies, but they were like toddlers, to the point where, also because of the pandemic, we weren't out doing a lot of any stuff anyways. So it's easy to shelter them from a lot of those harmful things, those gross things that I heard, from the messages I got from my friends saying, hey, Anthony, you might not want to come downtown and hang out with us like you had planned, because the crowd here is, let's just say, it wouldn't be very safe for you to do so, because you have the certain group of people that's in this bar right now, so you might just want to stay home. Like those sort of things that I had to deal with back in 2020. It was easy to shield my girls from, because they were so young and they just didn't really know what was up anyways. But this time around, my kids are 9 and 8. My younger daughter just turned 8 years old, and they're super, super active in obviously school, and they do gymnastics, and they just are very social and popular and have friends and stuff like that. And I get anxious for the fact that the scumbags, when they start running their mouths again, are gonna say stuff to where my kids are gonna hear about either about them, or maybe about some of they have Hispanic family members, or even just their gender as growing women. And it's gonna be harder to shelter them from some of those gross stuff. And I know it's not just in my community. I know in all communities there's gonna be scumbags like that, for sure. So I'm just giving you my context, but I know it could be anywhere. And it doesn't even just have to be Republican people who voted for Trump. It can come from anybody. So I get that. I get that. But I'm just saying, for my context, it just seems in my town, a lot of those scumbags just feel like they just have a free pass just to say the most unhinged things. And I'm worried that I just know it's inevitable, honestly, as sad as this is to say, it's inevitable that I'm going to have some pretty heavy and real conversations with my girls over the next, not even just 4 years, but eventually throughout their life, about race as their mixed race kids, about the fact that they're women, about the fact that I'm trying to raise them to be more like open minded towards certain groups of people, we're gonna have to have those type of conversations, and it's just scary to think about, I guess, to be honest. That's a lot of what I've been processing. And not even just from the people themselves, but as they're in school and as they're around other kids who are just gonna yap and parrot what they hear from their parents. Um, I was talking to one friend last night who uh, just had the kids, and their kids are a little bit older, but has heard her son has heard some pretty gross things from kids in his class about other kids in his class who look different, and it's just it's a sad reality. It's sad, and so I've been really thinking through a lot of what that means for me as a dad moving forward, and how and what those conversations look like with my girls and when to have them and all those sort of things. And just, I don't know, I'm also just been tired in general, right? Tired of the fact that, and exhausted thinking about the fact that we're going to step into a lot of this again over the next 4 years when those scumbags start popping up again, running their mouths. And, because I remember that, again, back in 2020 when I kind of realized who some of these people were in my community. It was heartbreaking, and it was tiring, and it was exhausting. And I'm just exhausted thinking through the fact that I'm going to have to deal with a lot of that again, especially with kids who are growing up. And yeah, I just had to exhale a lot over the last couple of weeks, and mentally prepare for what's ahead, and just to know that even though I am tired and I'm already exhausted, that I don't. I think what's going to be different this time around is the fact that me being in my mid 30s, which I'll talk more about in a second, I am past the phase in my life where I desire love and acceptance from everybody, right? Because, like I mentioned, when I first moved here, I was like, yeah, I'm Anthony. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be around these people. I'm going to get on stage. I want everybody to like me, and everybody's going to love me, and everybody's going to accept me. And this is me. This is me. This is me. This is me. And it was exhausting realizing that after doing all of that work to be loved and accepted by everybody, at the end of the day, there was still going to be some backwards thinking people who were never going to truly love and accept me, just from the fact that my skin color is the way that it is. And thankfully, I do have great people around me who do truly love and accept me for who I am. And I love those people to death. And those are going to be the people going forward who I'm going to invest in and build relationships with and spend time with and bring my kids around. But this time around, I'm not gonna just worry. I'm not gonna worry about the people who I no matter what I do, no matter how great of a public figure I am, no matter how much money I have, they're still just gonna have certain opinions about me just because of the way I look. Those are the people I just, maybe back in the day I would have lost sleep over the fact that those people didn't truly love me and accept me. But this time around, I'm done. I can't do that. I'm not worrying about them. I am worrying about me and my kids and my people, and that's pretty much where my capacity's at. And so I appreciate you all kind of listening to that, because I do consider you all listeners of this podcast my people. No matter how you voted, again, this isn't a political thing. The fact that we, as a lot of us listening to this, as single parents, can come together and kind of navigate some of these changes of life together means a lot. And I thank you for being patient with me over the last couple of weeks, as I took a break from the show so that I could properly assess how I was feeling, what I was thinking, so I could share it all with you today. I appreciate that. So thank you. I love the show, love doing the show, love sharing this show with everybody who chooses to listen. And yeah, so that's kind of my big thing, kind of the big thing I've been thinking of. But as I said before, there's also one other big aspect of my life that I've also been contemplating and thinking through. And let's talk about that part right now. So the other big part of my life that I've been really having to dwell on is the fact that at the time of this podcast being published, I'm going to be about 6-ish weeks away from turning 35. Now, I know some of you who are watching the video version of this might look at this The smooth face. Yeah, yeah, you guys see. And you might be like, they're gonna be 35, bro. You look like you're like 20 something. And to those people, I'd say I've heard that my whole life. I get it. It's just genetics. It's just you should see my mom. She looks young and gorgeous. My grandma, she looks young and stunning. Well, she is young. She is stunning, but we all just look younger than what we actually are. That's just the reality of my family. But I'm gonna be turning 35, and if you've been listening to this podcast for a minute now, you know that a fact about me is that I struggle every year around my birthday time. It just creates like this existential crisis within me to where I assess my life and I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna be this old and I haven't done this and I don't. I need to figure out that still, and retirement's coming up, and I need to mortgage and blah blah blah, and I just like have chaos around my birthday. Like most people love their birthday, do the whole even birthday month thing, and they party it up. Or for me, I'm just like, okay, we get through this. You're good, you're good. But for this year, as we've kind of been talking through the whole why not era aspect of life, right? I've really been putting that into play to where my big goal this year, heading into 35, kind of boils down to the fact that I'm actually okay with the fact that I'm in a phase of my life where I actually get to build something up legit for me and my kids, knowing that as a 35-year-old, I really do think that I've done the work for the last, let's say, even 15 years since I was 20 to learn about myself, learn about life, learn about the fact that I don't have to try to appease everybody, that I don't have to gain love and acceptance from everybody. I can just focus on me and my people and my kids, and that's totally okay. I've learned what I like to do, podcasting and just different things. I've learned what I don't like, the people I don't want to be around, the type of person I don't want to be. I've done the work to really learn that about myself. And now, obviously, as people, we're going to keep learning and discovering things about ourselves and life up until we die. I get that. I get that. But I think it was Denzel who had said, my favorite actor of all time, smooth Denzel. People say I look like him. Yeah, maybe I'm delusional right now. I'll just kind of pretend like that's the case. But I think Denzel had said your first phase of your life is all about learning. Your second phase of your life is all about earning. And then your third phase of your life is all about returning, right? So from 20-ish to 30-ish, you're just learning. You're just figuring stuff out. It's okay to just try and to fail and to do all these things because you're still developing, right? Middle phase of your life, mid 30s, 40s, 50s. This is when you're like, okay, I know who I am. This is what I want to do. Now let's start building stuff. Let me start this business. Let me start putting some things into play. Let me start building off of all the things I learned about myself over the last 20, 30 years and put this into practice. Then in the older phase of life, let me give back to the younger people so that way we can set up the next generation or two for success. That was kind of Denzel's point with that. And so I would say I'm in that middle phase, right, baby? I'm in the 35 middle phase to where I've done the early part of life work to learn about myself and learn about life to where now I'm really actually excited just to build off of that and to move forward earning things for my life and for my kids that hopefully set us up in some cool ways. So why not kind of a mentality? I've stepped into some stuff already. I'm starting doing some pre-licensing studying for a test coming up that'll get me a license for like a new business opportunity coming up. So stay tuned. Then the next episode, the season premiere, the 2025 episode of the podcast will actually probably come out the week after I take that licensing test because your boy needs to study, and I haven't sat down and studied like this that I'm about to since freaking college-ish, I think. So I gotta hit the books. So we'll debut the season premiere 2025 after that test. I'll let you all know how it goes. It's gonna be good. I am excited for the new season of the show in 2025. I think I'm gonna kind of switch up the format a little bit of the show, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be cool. That's just a little tease. So make sure you're subscribed. So there's that. I think next week I might even audition for a play. Why not? Being in a play next year? Because one thing I've learned about myself in that first phase of life is I love being creative, and I love being around other creatives themselves and that sort of field. And I never got into theater in school, even though I think I would have really liked it. And so, even though I'm in my mid 30s now, I'm like, oh, I learned this about myself. Why not try something? I don't know if I'm gonna have enough time to be in a play and to work and to have kids and to uh, start my new business ventures and do a podcast, but we'll see. I'm just gonna at least try it because why not? Maybe something I'll be able to do next year. But really, what my big goal is to start now at 35. Because actually, let me back up a second. So basically, as I was kind of taking the last couple of weeks to think through lots of stuff, I realized that this past year, maybe in the last past couple of years, have kind of basically been the same for me. Um, because the years before, were so filled with chaos from, divorce and raising two babies and leaving certain careers to step into other things and financial stuff. Like, it was chaos every month the years before. But the last couple of years, things kind of steadied out. I got a good stable job now. I'm paying my bills. The girls are in school. They do gymnastics. I got a safe, reliable car. I got, money in the bank. I got the stuff. So I was thinking, I was like, you know what? This last year from like Thanksgiving that just happened a little bit ago to 2023 Thanksgiving, like, sure, like I've done stuff, but like nothing big has like really changed. I'm still driving the same car, taking the kids to the same school, doing the same job, same old, same dog. So I was like, I'm in like a good, stable place. I got some stability in my life, and actually that's nice and that's much needed. But what I want to start doing now is preparing for the fact that my younger daughter, again, just turned 8. So I have 8 and 9-year-olds. So that means in just a few short years, I'm going to have two teenage girls, and their needs and their expenses and their practical need for space, a bigger house and stuff like that is going to come. So while I'm kind of stable right now, let me start preparing for the fact that I need to make some life upgrades in the next couple of years or so, instead of just kind of coasting. And then eventually, when I do need to figure stuff out, chaos starts again because I need to, oh, what am I going to do? I got to figure this out now, blah, blah, blah. So I'm hoping that starting now, building the whole building phase of the second part of life gets to kick in, and I get to again try different business opportunities and keep building this podcast and doing things that I want to do, so that way a few years from now when I do have teenage girls, I'm able to say, okay, cool, like let's make the steps necessary to bring us into this next phase of life, you guys as teenagers. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that's my reality, and I'm not in a place of chaos, because as my daughter did just turn 8 a couple of days ago, thinking about her and her growth, one big thing that I realized that I had a lot of, okay, I've been thinking through a lot, you guys. I tell you, this is why I needed a little time off from the show. I've been thinking through a lot, working through some guilt actually, because when I think back to her like early days as like a baby and like a young infant, stuff like that, like I honestly don't remember a whole lot about her early days, because around the time she was born, her first year or two was filled with so much of that chaos that I mentioned, that I was in legit survival mode. Like, the definition of surviving, like digging through my couch, trying to find loose chains so I could feed and provide for my kids just to make it through the next day type of survival mode. So because my mind was just in like just make it through mentality, and there was a lot of other stuff I had to figure out around that time, like it's just foggy. It feels like a foggy dream, her being like a little baby. And I'm hoping I'm able to do like the continual self-care work, therapy work, to retrieve some of those memories. But that's just the reality, at least for right now. So I'm thankful that heading into the future with some stability, I'm able to build more memories for my kids, and to just really invest in them and to do some work to give them opportunities to thrive in their own lives. Because one big thing I didn't mention earlier about my community is the fact that a lot of young people in our community just kind of feel like their only option is just staying here in this town, growing up, working in one of the industries that we have locally here, because it does pay pretty well, and getting that money and then building up lives here. And that's fine if people want to do that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. But I want my kids to know that there's more to life than just this little area bubble, that there's different cultures and people and mindset and job opportunities and passions out there, that I want them to have the ability to go and explore and to just form opinions on different things for themselves. So that way, when they are older, if they do want to come and say, hey, dad, you know what? I do want to get into one of these fields that is local in our economy. I do want to join one of those industries, not because I feel like that's my only option, but because I appreciate the fact that you and mom gave me opportunities to learn about life and to see what's out there. I've done that, but this is just what I want to do. And if they come back and say that to me, then that's fine, cool. I'm going to support them. But I just want them to have the experiences and the tools and the perspective to make those choices with as much education and with as much thought and purpose as they can as they grow and become women themselves throughout their lives. So that's what I'm working on. That's kind of what I'm thinking about. I know that's kind of a lot, but I just kind of wanted to share with you all kind of what I've been thinking through for myself, for my kids, and just through life. And I hope by me sharing some of the things I've been thinking through, hopefully that you can relate to some of these things. Maybe you yourself have been thinking through a lot just with the election, or just maybe you're getting older yourself, your kids are getting older, and you're just working through different phase of life stuff. I just want to, hopefully through my stories and me sharing my thoughts, let you all know that you're not alone in a lot of things you've been feeling, and you do have the ability to step in and try new things. I know it might be hard, especially as a single parent, because practically you do have to pay the bills, you have to get kids to and fro, you still got to come home and cook dinner. So the idea of starting a business or stepping into something, or even just doing something fun like a local play, just seems like a lot. But just know that you are worthy and deserving of being able to say, why not? Step into some of these things. You are worthy and deserving to maybe take a step back and think through some areas of life that you need to think through without running 100 miles per hour. You are worthy and deserving to look to the future for not even just your kids, but for yourself. Learn that, hey, I need to set boundaries with people. I need to set goals for myself. I need to think 2-3 years ahead, so that way when the next phase of life shows up, you're able to not just survive like I've done for many years, but you're able to truly thrive as a mom, as a dad, as a person. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for me. That's what I want for us. And so, together, moving into 2025, that's going to be the goal. And with that, everybody, that's going to bring it to an end of the 2024 season of the Single Parent Podcast. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me this year. It's just my goal to put out as many episodes as I could, because I truly care about this community, care about you all, care about what we're doing here. So thank you to everybody who's been with me since the beginning. Thank you to everybody who just maybe found the show for the first time. And I'm excited for what the new year is going to bring. So hit the subscribe button, do all the things, share your story with me. I forgot to mention, we have an email, the singleparentspodcast@gmail.com. That's the singleparentspodcast@gmail.com. Share your story with me. Let me know what you have going on. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what your goals are. Let me know your feelings about certain things happening in reality. And let's just discuss it as a true community. But in the meantime, if I don't hear from you, you all have a good, I don't know, make it a great. You all have a great rest of your 2024 year. Happy New Year's, happy holidays, all those things. And we'll see you back the middle of January for a brand new season. Until then, you all out there, just stay beautiful. Bye.